What is active transport? Active transport in cellular biology. Active transport is the movement of molecules across a cell membrane from a region of lower concentration to a region of higher concentration against the concentration gradient. Active transport requires cellular energy to achieve this movement. Active transport is the energy requiring process of pumping molecules against ions across membranes uphill against a concentration gradient. The active transport of small molecules or ions across a cell membrane is generally carried out by transport proteins that are found in the membrane. What are two types of active transport? There are two main types of active transport. Primary direct active transport involves the direct use of metabolic energy, ATP hydrolysis to mediate transport. Secondary indirect active transport involves coupling the molecule with another moving along an electrochemical gradient.
Types of active transport: antiport pumps, active transport by antiport pumps, symport pumps. Symport pumps take advantage of diffusion gradients to move. What is different between active and passive transport? Active transport is defined as the movement of molecules across the cell membrane by using cellular energy. Passive transport is the movement of molecules across the membrane without the use of ATP. No cellular energy is required in this process.
Why active transport is important? Active transport is a very important process enabling cells to accumulate molecules or ions from the environment against the concentration gradient. Conversely, contents of cell heavily loaded with electrolytes or metabolic products can be extracted against the concentration gradient. What are the proteins used in active transport called? Carrier proteins, also called carrier spermaces or transporters, bind the specific solute to be transported and undergo a series of conformational changes to be transferred the bound solute across the membrane. Channel proteins, in contrast, interact with solute to be transported much more weakly.
What are pumps in active transport? Pumps are a kind of active transport which pump ions and molecules against their concentration gradient. Active transport requires energy input in the form of ATP. Much like passive diffusion, protein pumps are specific for certain molecules. Which protein is responsible for active transport? Carrier proteins such as uniporters, symporters, and antiporters perform primary active transport and facilitate the movement of solutes across the cell's membrane. What is the source of energy in active transport? Primary active transport directly uses a source of chemical energy to move molecules across a membrane against their gradient. Why is energy needed for active transport? Active transport requires energy because it is not a passive process. The molecule has to go against the concentration gradient. Hence, it requires energy to be carried by the carrier proteins.